Hey guys, for today's service, we're going to be doing a blonde foliage, and this will be great for clients that want to brighten up, but they don't necessarily want to be super bright, super blonde with a bold money piece or anything like that. So if this is something that you're interested in, then keep watching. You guys can follow me over on Instagram at Christy at the Cottage.
Hey guys, so I've had a few people ask me about doing like a video on bobs or balayage on bobs or whatever, and a lot of my clients always come in with like longer hair, so I just kind of record my services as they come. So when somebody has a request for something, I usually just have to wait until that service happens to book. But because I'm doing a bob, or my client is cutting her hair up into a bob, I figured I'd record the service. So if you like bobs or want to watch a video on a bob or whatever, then this video is for you. So I'm going to be using my short scuff blonde me with 20 volume. I'm going to be starting with a rough cut, and then she wants to be quite a bit more blonde. So that's what the service is going to be today.
Okay, here's my clients before, and we're just going to be doing a rough cut to start. So let's get into that.
So in the front, you're thinking, so are you thinking like right in there? Or do you want here or here or like right here? Okay.
I have started doing this when I'm doing a big chop. Have you guys ever cut somebody's hair where they tell you that they want it like to their shoulders when it's a good chop, and then you cut it there and then they like freak out like, oh my God, you just chopped my hair off? That's happened to me a few times where they have literally gone off screaming at me, and I'm like, seriously, like I didn't even cut it like as short as you wanted me to. And so I saw somebody post something saying when somebody wants me to chop their hair, I have them point to it and then I cut exactly where they point. That way they can't look at me like I just chopped their hair. I took it shorter than what they wanted. And I think that is such a great tip. So I've been utilizing that, and I feel like this is going to save me from headaches in the future from people looking at me like, you just chopped my hair off, even though it's not even clients will come in with hair down to their butt and be like, I want it above my shoulders. And then you cut it like on their shoulders or below their shoulders, and they look at you psycho like that is some short hair. So anyways, if you guys don't do this, I highly recommend it. Like, cut it exactly where they point to and call it good. Like, they can't look at you psycho like I'm leaving you a bad review or anything like that. Anyways, rant over. Let's get into the color part of the service. So because she doesn't really want a bold money piece, I asked her and she said no. I'm just going to take this front section and kind of do like a zigzag sectioning. Going to weave it and then back comb it. I'm not going to take it directly up to her scalp just because she wants to be able to go a ways without like feeling like she has to have high maintenance hair come in like a month or two because she feels like this bold money piece is like starting to grow out or anything. So I'm not going to take it any closer than this. I'm probably going to keep it within like 1.5 to 2 inches away from her scalp. That way she just can let it grow and not have to come back for like, until summertime, fall time if she doesn't want to wait until then. So we're also going to take a section directly under where she parts. Normally I would do a few back to back, but because we're not doing that bold brighter piece along the front of the hairline, we're just going to do the one and then connect it underneath the part to make sure that it's nice and bright, but that the brightness kind of falls underneath her hair so it's a little bit softer. And we're going to do the same thing, just weave it, back comb it, and make sure you have a heavy saturation. I feel like a lot of people say that they don't get it light enough, and it's all because you don't have good enough saturation. If you can see through to the hair, like there's some people that I watch foil and they're doing like one swipe of bleach on their section, and that's not enough. Sometimes you really have to get in there, especially when somebody wants blonde. You really have to make sure that you're like kind of going vertically through the hair and like through your section, and like making sure you're pushing that bleach all the way through, because you don't want to have any dark spots in the hair or anything like that. So we're just going to do this front little section and call it good, pin the hair back, and then get that underneath. I want it to be brighter towards the face, but not up at the top of the face. Like, she's okay with it being a little bit brighter through the ends, and that's obviously because, she wants it to feel like she's nice and bright and blonde, not like too soft, enough to where it like blends with her natural color. So if you do it brighter through the ends and leave it more rooty up at the top, she's still going to be able to feel like she can go quite a ways in between without having to get her hair done, and she can let her hair grow for quite a while. So we're just going to take the underneath section from what we just did, weave it, back comb it, and we're only going to go like halfway up the mid section. You guys know how I feel about this whole midsection thing. We're only going to go about halfway up the hair section and apply the lightener there, and that will kind of create a little bit of a gradual, like really soft natural ombre. We're taking that section that falls directly on top of that, and we're bringing that a little bit higher, but because we're taking the section directly underneath it and weaving it and bringing it a little bit lower through the ends, she's gonna have a little bit more of a rooty look, and then as it gets through the ends of the hair, it's gonna fall a little bit brighter. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I kind of like over talk sometimes and it gets confusing maybe, but we're just going to finish this front section around her face, and I like going back and forth from side to side. That way I can make sure that I'm staying even. Like, sometimes if I do one whole side of the head and then flip over to the other side of the head, I can't always remember like how far up, like I kind of stagger my foils. They're not always going to fall at the same point. I'm not always going to apply the lightener at the same level on the hair. So kind of going back and forth helps me remember exactly where I place my lightener. How far up am I taking the foils? Am I dropping them down and just painting through the ends? So if you see me go back and forth, that's why. All right, I want to show you guys something when I talk about saturation. You see this spot, I'm going to point it out right here, where it's kind of got those darker little splotches in it. Make sure you go over those areas and reapply the bleach and make sure you have heavy saturation everywhere. If you notice that there's like little areas where the darker pieces of the hair are showing through, as your hair lifts, that's gonna be the same when it lightens. You're gonna have areas in the hair that are a little bit darker and splotchier because you didn't get good enough saturation in that one spot. So that also happens. I don't know if you've watched my foiling like tips and tricks, do's and don'ts or whatever, but I show you on there when someone's foiling and they like fold their foil up and they crease through it and pinch it. You're pinching that bleach and like squeezing it out of the fold area, and that's sometimes when you get those lines in the hair, that's how that's sometimes created. So you'll notice when I fold the foil up, I'm just barely tapping it and like folding the corners in. Sometimes I don't even tap it because I don't want to like press the bleach or move the bleach from where it's been applied. And so you'll see me just barely like tap it close, fold the corners out. I don't like run my fingers at the bottom of the fold where the foil is and like squeeze the bleach around, move it. Cause like I've done that before just to like show you guys in other videos where I'll fold my foil up, squeeze the bottom part of the foil where it's folded, and then I'll unfold it and show you how bleach is now like moved out of that crease area, and that's where lines are created and how you get those like zebra stripes or like bad looking foil placement, bad saturation. All of that is how that's created. So make sure when you're folding your foils up, like I know it's a total aesthetic that people want when they want their foils to look pretty and precise, and they like keep taking their comb over and over their fingers, and they slide their fingers through the foils to make them look nice and smooth and like perfectly spaced out or whatever. Like, stop doing that. Like, you're doing that for other hairstylists to see, to make it look good. Like, clients don't care what the foils look like. And I learned that from Hair Like a Boss, because he talks about like your Instagram page and how you want the flow of the page to look nice and all of that stuff, whatever. Like, clients don't care about that kind of stuff. Like, you're doing it for other hairstylists to see, and I feel like that's completely accurate. So when you're going through and you're doing your foils and you're trying to make your foils look all pretty and nice and wanting to take a picture of it so they look good, like, the client is the one that matters, because if you're making sure your foils are nice and thin and laying perfectly, but really you're squeezing the bleach out of the foil placement, and now you're creating bad lines in the hair, like, your client's going to be the one that's pissed. Like, hairstylists aren't going to see that. So anyways, that's another long rant that I'm going into, but anyways, just be a conscious foiler. All right, I know I was talking through the majority of that application, so I'm just going to go over everything right now. So for the most of her application, I'm going through and I'm doing a heavy back comb and I'm weaving the hair. And sometimes I'll just grab the hair from how it's falling naturally. I won't even take a section. I'll just kind of weave pieces of the hair as it's laying down, because that's how the hair is falling naturally. Sometimes you want to like do a section and then weave the hair, but sometimes, especially in the back, depending on how their cowlicks fall, sometimes that's not going to get the coverage you need. So especially when I'm in the back area, I'll just let the hair kind of hang and I'll kind of do my weave when it's laying down. And that kind of helps me ensure that no matter like what, I'm going to have great coverage through the back of the head. So in through here, because she wants to have an overall brighter appearance, but we want to make sure that she doesn't have like heavy grow out. Like, she wants to be blonde, like blonder and lighter, but she doesn't want to be considered a blonde. She still wants to have her natural roots. So I'm not going to do a heavy amount. I'm going to leave basically from the ears and below all of her natural, and that's going to help leave a little bit of dimension. Like, when she styles her hair, she's going to have like those darker pieces kind of showing through. So I'm just taking this little section and I'm running it through like the ends of the hair, but I'm not going to like do the sides also, because I don't want to do too much blonde. And now she doesn't feel like she has, and now she feels like she doesn't have enough of her natural hair showing through. So now we're moving back over to the sides of the head, and we're going to do the same, go through and do kind of, I'm doing smaller sections. Usually if somebody has dark hair and they want some dimension, like, but they don't necessarily want it to be really bright blonde, like, usually then it's okay to do a little bit larger of sections, because we're not trying to get like super bright and nice and light. But because she wants to be, brighter and have some blonde, not be considered blonde, I want to make sure that my sections are thin enough and small enough that I get good lift. Make sure that you're doing heavy application, applying enough bleach to where she's going to have like probably like a level 9-10 lift. And this is how you want to do it. Like, I'm going to be picking up these pieces that are falling below, and this is going to help ensure that she has enough of her natural hair in between all of the sections to where we're leaving that dimension so that we're not over blonding her hair. It's such a fine line. I feel like before, especially like if somebody wanted balayage or they said they wanted to be blonder or lighter, like, I would go through and way over apply. And I feel like this is kind of something that stylists tend to do. It's like we don't leave enough of the natural, we don't leave enough dimension in the hair, and then now they're too solid blonde, and now you have to go back through and apply some lightener. So when you go through, just make sure that you're leaving some of those dimensional pieces also enough so that they feel like they have their natural hair throughout, leaving that dimension in there. So again, we're going to go through and do a weave back comb it and apply our lightener, and we're staying within probably 1.5 to 2 inches away from the root. This is going to ensure that she has her natural color when her hair starts growing out. She's not at all gonna feel like she has any grow out because we're not taking the bleach all the way up to her scalp. So we're just feathering it really nicely into her root area, but not all the way up to her roots. So that's gonna make sure that she feels nice and rooty, but she still feels bright, but it's just softly blended up into her roots. And then we're gonna pull these foils down, and I'm going to just kind of weave through the ends and back comb it. And this is going to help tip the ends out to where it kind of gets a little bit brighter through the ends. And I feel like it's really important to do this for somebody that wants to be brighter, but they want to stay, have their natural color still. Make sure you're really going through and lightening up those ends, because I feel like if I did not go through and lighten up the ends this way, then I don't think she would have felt light enough. I feel like you really got to make sure you give them some extra brightness somewhere, or else they're not going to feel it at all. They might feel too blended or too much of their natural without feeling bright enough anywhere. So if you're going to add brightness, make sure it's like towards the midsection, towards the ends of the hair, and make sure it's brighter towards the face, but not necessarily up at the root or up like a huge money piece if that's not what they're wanting. So I'm glad that we're doing this in the service, because it's such a fine line between somebody saying that they still want to be natural but brighter but not have grow out. It's like kind of hard to make sure that you're giving a client like, okay, they want to be blonder, they want to be all over lighter, but they don't want to have grow out, and they want to still have like their natural roots. It's like, how do you accomplish that all in the same process? Like, it's almost impossible sometimes. But I feel like the way to go about that is not giving them like heavy brightness all the way around the face. Make sure that they still have a lot of their natural roots, but just make sure that you add extra brightness like through the ends of the hair, and kind of have it fade from the roots to like soft blonde and then heavier blonde through the ends of the hair, especially like around the facial area. That way they feel like they have that extra brightness. So we're just going to finish our application, finish applying. Oh, and I also want to say, because she parts her hair on the side, that makes it kind of hard to like figure out like how much dimension am I leaving, because if you do too much blonde on one side, then she's gonna have way more blonde on that side of the head, or you're gonna do all blonde on the hair where the part falls and you're not leaving enough dimension, and then you're solid on this side, but then on the other side you have more dimension than that side of the head. So make sure you're paying attention to your sectioning. If they part straight down the center of the head, then you don't have to worry about it so much. But for somebody that parts on the side, you got to make sure that you're leaving enough dimension, or else they're going to fall all blonde on one side. So make sure you're weaving those sections really good and leaving enough dimension in there. That way they have nice balance of brightness on both sides of the head. Okay, so this is about all that we did for her foliage, balayage, and I would consider this a full. So we're going to go through and check the foils, just because I want to make sure. I had to go refill my lightener, and this section was towards the end of the first bowl that I used. So I'm just going to go through and reapply if I need to make sure that she's lifting nicely. So look at this lift. This is what I'm talking about when you do heavy saturation. I only used I think I put some 7 volume in there with like 20 volume, and you can see that she has really good lift. So we're just going to pull these foils out, and then we're going to go tone. And here's her hair before we tone.
Okay, so my client just got done processing and I washed her out. She wants to be like a nice bright blonde, but she didn't say that she necessarily wants to be like super ashy or cool or anything. I think she just wants to be like feel brighter. Because of that, I'm not gonna do too ashy of a toner on her. I think I'm gonna stick with like 10A because she already has a lot of warmth in her hair from lifting. So I'm not gonna add any gold. I think the gold, like the warmth that's already existing in her hair, I think just going with like a straight 10A will be good enough to just stay nice and help it stay bright without going too cool. So I'm gonna use my Palm Mitchell, the Demi with a processing solution, and that will probably sit on there for like 10 minutes.
Okay, before we go through and blow dry, I'm going to make sure, because we did a dry cut, like a rough dry cut at the beginning of the service, I'm just going to go through and make sure that everything is falling nicely. If I have to clean anything up, I will. I'm just going to double check the haircut. I know people kind of ask sometimes why I use a comb, and it's because I like to be able to section the hair a little bit better as I'm blow drying and have better direction with the hair. I feel like I don't have as much control when I'm using a brush. So that's why I like to use a comb, and because it helps save my wrists from hurting. I will never round brush ever. You would have to pay me hundreds of dollars if you want to add that onto the service. So we're just going to finish blow drying her hair with my little comb. And I want you guys to be able to see how the hair looks as it's drying and as it's like kind of dried in its natural state. I feel like, anybody can curl the hair and make it look good. So I like you guys to be able to see what it looks like as I'm drying it and when it's just dried before we style it. Sometimes I feel like the videos that I watch on YouTube, like they'll be drying the hair, or it'll be like after they wash it, and then all of a sudden they've like added all these extensions or all this extra length or whatever, and it's like, yeah, but what does the actual color look like? Because that doesn't show what the color looks like. That just makes the whole service look different when you add all this stuff to it. So that's why I always like to add the blow drying and all of that stuff and let you guys see what the actual color looks like just in its raw form as the hair naturally is before it's styled, because then you can actually see how the color looks. How does the blend really look when it's just laying there, when it's straighter. I feel like some people think hairstylists like to curl a balayage because it hides any mess ups or whatever, but I personally just think it looks prettier. But that's why I like to show you guys before we style it, so you can really see for yourself how the color looks just naturally. All right, so here's her before again. Darker, not really anything going on. We chopped off whatever color there was that we lightened before. And here's the after. Look at those pretty soft golden blonde tones. I love that toner just as simple as it is, because it's toning the hair, just canceling out any warmth, like over warmth in the hair, but it's leaving it like a soft buttery blonde, and it blends perfectly up into the roots. You can see that it blends nicely, no harsh lines or anything. So she was super happy with the hair, and I really loved how the service turned out, just really soft and natural blonde. For those of you that are interested in the overall timing and cost of this service, it was roughly just under 3 hours and came out to be $265. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.